the head of this organization, Sinaloa organization, here in the country illegally, 6 of these guys and women here in the country illegally. His name is Alberto Salazar Amaya. He is the leader, and he was living in Salem, Oregon.
A months-long investigation spanning 5 states ends with more than a dozen arrests and a record-breaking seizure of 3 million fentanyl pills. That's the largest in DEA history. The alleged leader of that drug ring, an undocumented immigrant deported twice before he was arrested in Salem. In all, federal agents also seized nearly $5 million in cash, the majority of that seized in Salem, along with high-end jewelry and luxury vehicles. They say the bust gives us a glimpse into the high-rolling lifestyle built on poison.
This was an incredible operation, and that's why I wanted all of you here behind me. It took months and months of work, investigation, leading up to smaller buys, smaller cases, to get this massive amount of drugs and guns off our streets.
The bust in Salem was just one element of so-called Operation Takeback America. The feds say the mission dismantled one of the largest and most dangerous fentanyl networks in American history. And DEA's acting administrator, Robert Murphy, called it a, quote, battlefield victory against what he described as a terrorist-backed network.
They are flooding our cities with a weapon of mass destruction, fentanyl. And when we catch you, like all of these individuals, if convicted, we will put you behind bars, there will be no negotiating, and we will lock you up for as long as humanly possible. The top guy who I keep pointing to, he insulated himself. He was in Oregon. He had no drugs on him, but he was the leader. He had millions of dollars. He had a Mercedes. He had a truck. He had other things, but he did not have any drugs on him because he was the leader. And that's what these cartels do, whether it's Sinaloa, whether it's MS-13, whether it's TDA. The highest leaders insulate themselves.
Now, along with the millions of fentanyl pills, investigators say the amount of cash seized in Salem alone, more than $2.8 million, makes it one of the largest busts in the history of Pacific Northwest. 16 people are now facing federal charges, including conspiracy to distribute fentanyl. 6 of those arrested are not U.S. citizens. Now, the alleged ringleader, Alberto Salazar Amaya, is one of them. He's facing immigration-related charges as well. So, is the plan to deport him again? Well, AG Bondi says if he's convicted, she has other plans.
They're also part of a major drug trafficking ring in Mexico. So sending them back to Mexico to continue on with their drug business isn't going to happen under this administration. And I want them to stay in our prisons as long as possible. I've no desire to send them back to Mexico because they were coming across our border illegally. No longer will they be able to do that. But the amount of drugs, the amount of money, the amount of weapons, most of these individuals, if convicted, will remain in American prisons. Perhaps Alcatraz.
Republican lawmakers in Salem were quick to jump on the opportunity to blast Democrats for Oregon's sanctuary status for undocumented immigrants. Representative Jeff Helfrich wrote, Oregon should immediately end our sanctuary state policies and work with federal law enforcement to deport these dangerous criminals and stop the flow of drugs over our border. House Minority Leader Christine Drazen chimed in, saying, today should be a wake-up call that if we don't modernize our sanctuary state laws, Oregon will continue to be a haven for dangerous criminals instead of taking them off our streets. Now, Oregon was the first state in the nation to pass a sanctuary law back in 1987, prohibiting local and state agencies from helping federal immigration efforts. It's been strengthened a few times since then and seems untouchable in the halls of the Capitol. So how are GOP-led efforts going this session when it comes to modernizing sanctuary laws in Oregon? As you might imagine, not so great. We searched the legislature's website for any bills with the phrase federal immigration and found 5 of them. There they are. A few have sister bills in the opposite chamber, but they read the same. Republicans are chief sponsors on all 5 bills, and here's where they stand now. Senate Bill 486 would fully repeal Oregon's sanctuary status and allow the use of public resources to enforce immigration laws. It was introduced when session began, referred to a committee a few days later, and has gone nowhere since. Senate Bill 1041 would require police to notify immigration officials if they arrest an undocumented person for fentanyl-related crimes. It was introduced in the middle of February, sent to committee, and gone nowhere since. Senate Bill 491 is a little more broad. It requires police to notify ICE if they arrest an undocumented person for, quote, delivery or manufacture of a controlled substance. It was introduced when session began, referred to committee a few days later, and you guessed it, has gone nowhere. Senate Bill 11 directs police to ask someone if they are a U.S. citizen if the person is being arrested for a crime and has a gun. If they are not a U.S. citizen, police would be required to call ICE. That bill also was introduced when session began, referred to a committee a few days later, and it remains on the shelf. And finally, House Bill 3551, we told you about this one back in February. Well, it would give law enforcement the option to call immigration officials if an undocumented person is convicted of certain crimes, including violent felonies, felony sex offenses, or Class A misdemeanors, things like reckless driving and DUI. Now, that bill was sent to committee in early February and has gone nowhere since. None of the bills we just told you about have any hearings on the horizon, meaning they stand little chance in the remaining month and a half of Oregon's legislative session. So, what is going through your mind after learning about the DEA arrest down in Salem or the anti-sanctuary bills in front of the legislature? Should Oregon stay as it is, sanctuary-wise? Why or why not? Email us the story at kgw.com or call and leave a voicemail 503-226-5090.